Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you today. And what I'm going to talk to you about is CERT NZ's journey to developing a new cybersecurity brand, which is aimed at consumers and small businesses. And thank you very much for the CERT first organising committee for such a great conference, and also our Japanese colleagues for hosting us so generously. So just to introduce myself, kia ora from New Zealand, and ohayou gozaimasu. My title is the Manager of Engagement, Communications and Partnerships at CERT NZ. Sometimes rather cruelly we get called the colouring in department, but there is some truth to that. So this talk is kind of about marketing and communications. So it's maybe a little bit of a light relief if you're looking for that at day 3 of the conference, but hopefully there'll be something in here that you will also take away that's of use. This is really talking about the human element in cybersecurity and how we encourage everyday people to adopt cybersecurity behaviours. So my background as a public servant in New Zealand has been in social marketing, and so encouraging our citizens to do those useful things that will help the country or help the environment or even help themselves. So previously I had a role in energy efficiency, so encouraging people to use electricity better for the sake of the environment or for their own finances. So sometimes humans are a bit strange. Even if it's good for them, they don't really necessarily want to do it. And the same applies to cybersecurity. I came to work at CERT NZ about 4 years ago and found quite a few similarities where there's some really good reasons why you should adopt some quite simple things that you can do in your everyday life, but people don't necessarily do them. They need some interesting persuasive techniques to get them to do that. So what I want to cover today is a little bit about the cybersecurity context in New Zealand so that you can understand the problem that we are trying to solve, the approach that we took and to develop a new brand and a new website and how that's gone to date. So CERT NZ was established about 7 years ago, and we were set up to look after all New Zealanders, so everyday public, small businesses and organisations, as well as larger businesses. And the main activities that we carry out are to provide incident response support, to create and share educational resources, to publish data and insights, and to work with partners to prevent cyber threats. Last year, the New Zealand government made the call that we should be merged with the National Cybersecurity Centre to form one national cybersecurity agency. And the NCSC is linked to the government's intelligence community. So it's a bit of a change for us. We're in the process of merging with the NCSC, and even as we speak, that's happening. And when I get back, I'll get a whole new laptop and pretty soon a whole new team. So it's very real for us, but we're excited about the opportunity. And it's been great also to talk to a few NatCert type people here at the conference to learn their experiences of merging organisations at that level, and what we can learn from that experience. So we're really determined that we'll come out of this stronger than the sum of our parts. So, oops, did I go past one? No, I didn't. Okay, cool. So we did a little bit of research back in 2022 to understand what New Zealanders thought about cybersecurity. And we found that 17% of people had adopted a new cyber safe behaviour in the past 6 months. So it's quite low, really. We found that nearly 80% of individuals and nearly 60% of small to medium enterprises had not reported a cyber incident in the past because they didn't think it was worth it. And we found that only 20% of people were concerned about experiencing a cyber threat, attack or crime. And a third of New Zealanders said they didn't know why cybersecurity was important. We also asked them, who would you go to if you had a cybersecurity incident happen to you? And only 2% of people could name CERT NZ at the time as an agency that could help them. If we showed them the logo and the name, then 25% of people said, oh yeah, I think I've heard of those guys. So what we found from that research was that, yeah, our awareness was quite low, and that cybersecurity the sense of urgency around cybersecurity was pretty low as well. So we started to think about our approach and whether it was working. We started off thinking about the audiences we were trying to serve. So for CERT NZ, we've got 4 kind of audiences that we look at. So individuals or the general public, the small to medium enterprises, which are those small businesses and other organisations. And then we've got the corporates, the big business and the government and IT specialists. So that's quite a wide range of audiences. And what we found really is that we kind of had 2 different audiences, very different audiences. On one hand, we had that big business and tech sector who understand what cyber is and they like technical language. They have a high awareness of the main players in the sector and they like details. And they're aware of the big crime out there in the cyber world. And overall, the impression is that this is a kind of a shadowy kind of world for big players to play in. On the other side of the spectrum, we've got everyday people, and they talk about being online, and they use everyday language. They're not that aware of CERT NZ, and they want things to be easy and simple, and they don't want things to be in the shadows. They would prefer things to be much more in the open and easy to understand. So overall, we've got the situation where we've got people like yourselves who are at this conference who understand the technical, complicated language of cybersecurity. And then you've got normal people. If you put them in that environment, they're going, what the heck? I really don't know what's going on. So we started to think, well, maybe we should change the way we thought about our approach. And that this group here, these individuals and small to medium businesses might need a slightly new approach. So we decided we needed a new brand for the consumer and SME audience. So the next part of this presentation is talking about how we came up with the name and the design for that new brand. So we thought about what we needed. So given all the research we'd done and what we'd found out, we realized we didn't want jargon in the name. We didn't want to use cyber either because we thought that kind of put people off a wee bit. We needed it to be easy to understand what it's about, to be positive and empowering. So we used an external marketing agency to come up with a few ideas for us, and they came up with a few options, and we chose the best one out of that. So what we came up with was Own Your Online. So that's the new name for our SME and everyday people brand. And we like this name because it uses online instead of cybersecurity. It's a more relatable term. It's kind of a call to action. It's asking you to do something. And it implies that you have the power to make a difference. And it has that sort of slang term of owning, which is, you know, about domination and winning. So altogether, it kind of worked pretty well for us. So the next step in developing our brand was to develop a visual look and feel. So this next bit is pretty much a design, a bit about design really, rather than cybersecurity, but you might find it interesting to see how we got there. So the idea our agency came up with was around the layers of protection that we need. And this is about the different areas where we kind of use our online or digital services. So we might have online shopping, online banking, cloud services. So these are sort of these different areas where we're going online. And then we start to kind of join them up and use layers of protection to keep them safe. And then there might be some areas that need more protection than others. So we add some more blobs, or we might add bigger blobs. So this is the kind of design approach that we use to get to this point of having this kind of look and feel that we adopted for our brand. But we also needed a logo to go with it. So again, we started with this idea of places of online activity that could be sort of joined together. And this time we're kind of adding words, and we get to our logo of Own Your Online. So that's our newish brand that we are very pleased about. So the next step for that was then bringing it to life. So it's all very well having your brand, but then you need, you know, kind of the comms and everything that goes with that. So we had to build a new website to go with that. And so this is what the website looks like. And this has got a personal section, so for everyday people advice, and it's got a business section for advice that's more tailored to businesses. And we made sure that the terminology we use is kept pretty straightforward, and that we explain those terms, any technical terms that come up. We have got a glossary that helps people understand them, and we try to keep the language as simple as possible, and the design as clean and easy to use as possible. So this was all happening at the end of last year, and then the timing worked out that we could launch it in Cyber Smart Week. We have every year a Cyber Smart Week in October. I think a few organisations also do some kind of cyber activity in the month of October. So our Cyber Smart Week is usually around sort of October sometime. So we decided that we would launch it in Cyber Smart Week. We wanted to have a campaign to promote the new platform. And in the platform, we set out to show New Zealanders what's at stake if we don't get cybersecurity right. So we actually found some real New Zealanders who had been affected by cybersecurity incidents, and we used photography to show them going about their everyday lives and showing how we can be quite vulnerable through our devices to exposing our lives online. So this is one of the images we used. The tagline was, "Don't expose your life online, own it." So the visual approach was to actually take photographs in a kind of candid way. Of course, with the subject's agreement, they all agreed to take part in this. But it was sort of taken through their devices to show them in their everyday activities. And it had a kind of creepy feeling in a way that, that people are exposed online without really knowing about it. And what we did with these photographs were really amazing. We had a great design team that created them, and we actually created an exhibition so that people could actually come in for free to this exhibition space and look at these photographs. And that gave us quite a good PR element, so that the media were quite interested in the fact that we were running an exhibition about cybersecurity. So we got some good media coverage for that event. And we got some good results as a result of that, so we're really pleased with that. It's a really good way to launch our new website to the public. After following the Cyber Smart Week launch, we wanted to continue to use these real stories. The thing about real stories is that people do trust them more if they know that real people are behind them and they're telling the honest account of what's happened to them. They tend to be more interested. So we ran a second kind of follow-up campaign using the same people we'd used in the initial campaign, but this time talking about some of the things they could have done to stop those attacks happening to them online. So this one was about how to go from being exposed to being secure. So you might be wondering what cybersecurity actions that we're promoting. So the key actions that we promote, so we've always had kind of 4 main actions that we've always promoted to everyday people, and that's long, strong, unique passwords, two-factor authentication or MFA, updating your software and devices when asked, and set your social media settings to private. In recent times, because of the onslaught of phishing, we have decided to add that 5th one of watching out for clicking on links, which is can be a difficult piece of advice to follow because there's so many questions about that, but we feel it's important to make people aware of that. And in addition to that, those core 5 messages, we also encourage people to subscribe to the information that we have available through Own Your Online and to report their incidents to us. So has it made a difference? So our latest research carried out at the end of 2023 has shown a dramatic improvement in behaviour. So let's have a wee look at the results there. So what we found was actually a huge increase in the stated behaviours of New Zealanders. So these, if you look at that versus November 22 column, you can see the jump in percentage points compared to the year before. So for example, the number of people who said that they were verifying links and text messages and emails before responding or clicking, that's jumped up by 21 percentage points. So it's a really big jump. Another big jump was purposefully keeping my social media settings private. So it's also jumped up by 21 percentage points. So really a huge improvement within a year. So what's that all to do with our campaign? A bit more research. We also asked people, have you adopted a cybersecurity behaviour in the last 6 months? You may recall from the earlier slide that last time we asked that 17% of people said they had adopted a new cybersecurity behaviour. But this time, nearly 50%, nearly half of all New Zealanders had adopted a new cybersecurity behaviour in the last 6 months. So that's an amazing improvement. We're really thrilled. We also found this one though. We see a link between the threat exposure and the new behaviours being adopted. So of those people who had adopted a new cybersecurity behaviour in the past 6 months, about 60% of them had personally experienced a severe or significant cyber threat. So that seems like a big part of people adopting new behaviours is actually being exposed to cybersecurity threats and incidents, and realising that they need to take more action. So although we would like to take all the credit for this improvement in behaviours, it could also be that cybersecurity risks have increased and more people are being exposed to them. And that has been a bit of a wake-up call for people. And now they're responding by looking out for more information and taking more actions. But we also have this evidence. We asked people who had seen our campaign, did you do anything differently as a result of seeing CERT NZ's Own Your Online campaign? And actually 70% of people said they did take a new behaviour, which is fantastic. So the biggest ones were 31% of people said they strengthened their online passwords as a result of the campaign. 29% said they switched their social media settings to private. And 23% said they activated auto updates on their apps and devices. So that's fantastic in terms of a response to a government campaign. So in terms of what's coming next, we are looking at how we can grow the Own Your Online campaign and deal with the segments that are within it. So to date, we've kind of taken a broad brush approach. We've been trying to reach kind of everyone at once, but we know that businesses have particular needs. So we will be looking at how we can tailor our advice even more closely for those business needs. And we've actually had a bit of a challenge given to us by the government. We've been asked to help with a project to train 10,000 small to medium enterprises by the end of the year. So that's quite a big ask for us and for government, but we're excited about that challenge. So that's going to be one of the big projects that we will be working on in the next 6 to 12 months. And we need to build our presence generally and keep increasing the information that we have for people. And that's always in response to so we're collecting reports all the time. And as we see new trends or new risks out there, we're responding by creating new information for the website and translating that sort of technical cyber information into everyday advice for SMEs and for everyday people. So this is these are our channels. So if you would like to check out this material, by all means do. We're on Instagram and we're on Facebook as Own Your Online. And for CERT NZ, just want to reassure you that that brand's not disappearing. For now, we're still there. So you can still follow us on LinkedIn or on X if you would like to, and have a look at some of our advice. And if you've got any feedback for us about the website, we'd be very happy to hear about that. So yeah, feel free to get in touch. And that is the end of my talk. Ngā mihi nui and arigatou gozaimasu.
Thank you very much, Jane. If there are questions, we'll go through the microphones there. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Vilus from Lithuania. I mostly interact with national CERTs in developing countries, and I often show your website of CERT as a different website, showing, look how it is. And I remember the GFC book of establishing national CERTs. There's a case study of how you develop the website and it's why it's different. And so thank you very much. And I hope that difference is still, unique difference will be preserved in your merging. So good luck in merging. We've seen many of them in the world. I think some of them are more successful than others are less. What relates to this campaign, what are the dependencies to launch such thing in other countries? That means how many internal people you allocated to think about it and create, and how much as well external designers needs to be around in the ecosystem to bring in to create such unique experience and such targeted. For example, on number 5 point, you say, typically we say don't click on the links versus very nice wording what you choose, which is not typical, at least what I, non-native English speaker, what I don't find it typical. I'm always very excited how you communicate. And I don't know why it happens for New Zealand, but doesn't happen to many other countries. Maybe I see similar in the Netherlands and UK, but not so much in other countries with such care. So what's the secret? What are the, is it about people? Is it about how many millions you spend on it, or how?
That's a very interesting question. I suppose in terms of the resourcing, the elements you really need to do this successfully is usually the research to understand your audiences. And then you need some people internally who understand the discipline of marketing and communications. But we do outsource a lot of this. So we do use external agencies for the design work and the strategy and the thinking. So you can do that. Usually it's a matter of committing the dollars to do it and having that belief, I guess, that behavior change is an important element of the of what you're doing. I think a lot of people don't see it as important enough to invest money in it. There actually happen to be a lot of great marketing and design companies in New Zealand, and I think our advertising is quite high level. So it could be that is a general thing for some reason in New Zealand is good. But in terms, I think any agency can do it. I think that it does require, probably at the higher levels of management, some recognition that it's an important thing to do because it does need some resourcing. But our team is about 10 people, but probably we would only have about 3 or 4 people working on this particular thing. And a lot of, as I say, a lot of that work is then outsourced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Go.
I'm very short. Okay. This is exciting. I have a similar question, but it's a little bit different. And I would like to understand what's under the hood for determining those requirements for the outsourced companies that you use to sort of think about redesigning your site, doing the user research, and then the follow-up user research. How did that play out? Did you use the same company? Because I know many organizations at this conference deal with limited resources, and we may not have the opportunity to go out and actually do get a company to come in and do this for them. And so I work in a place that we're lean, mean, and we're trying to do our own user research. So do you have any advice for organizations to think about doing that type of work? And thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, we have used an external research agency to do that work, and we would do a survey every year I guess when you start to spend a bit of money on advertising, really you should be able to back up whether it's working or not, and the best way to do that is with market research. But if you don't have access to that, I think another approach would be, you can measure easily measure things like website hits and engagement and those sort of other metrics, which are very, very cheap and easy to measure. And sometimes you can you might be able to find a university researcher who might be able to do some work for you, or just get together a bunch of friends and family who don't know much about your cyber, your day-to-day work, and get some views from them, like a kind of focus group, really. And that can help you quite a lot, because I think the problem for many of us working in a technical area is we take a lot of things for granted about what people know and understand. And it's always interesting for me whenever we hire a new person who's not a cybersecurity person, and we talk about what we take for granted in the cyber world about passwords and things like that. And they're going, really? You should have different passwords for every account? Wow, I didn't know that. That's so interesting. And we realize that out there in the real world, people are just, this is a whole different thing for them. So we have to keep it real, and that connection to reality is important. I hope that answered your question slightly. Clay. Oh, sorry, or Kia.
Thanks for the great presentation, Jane. I know it's really dependent on what country you're running a campaign in, but in the presentation you shared, you guys used the exhibit, the billboards, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Could you share a little bit insight in which ones you found most effective and why?
Sure. To be honest, we actually got the biggest bang for buck out of the PR, which was effectively getting journalists interested in our ideas. And what they responded to the most was these real stories. So whenever we wanted, and Hayden actually had the job of helping to pitch some of the stuff to journalists, they wanted people to talk about their real stories. So if you ever have access to people who have suffered a cyber incident and they're willing to share their experience, journalists love that stuff, and you get very good coverage from it. So, but because we had these 10 stories of people who were willing to go on the radio or on the TV and talk about their experience, we got really good coverage as a result. Yeah.
Thanks very much for a fantastic presentation, Jane. So I suppose there's a bit of a context for my question. In the UK, we, I suppose, are able to engage with a certain sector of society relatively well, generally those that are, I guess, between the ages of about 25 to 55, 60 or so. We find it slightly more difficult for those that are younger and kind of might have been using technology since they were in their early teens, but don't necessarily understand how it works and the dangers behind it. And then specifically those who may have not grown up as internet natives, or even with the internet in their workplace necessarily, or it was coming in as they were leaving the workplace. And when we're talking, but still have to use online kind of services to access banking and other things. I think one of the difficulties that we have is for those people who might be older and less familiar with being online, they don't necessarily access online resources to raise their awareness, that they might not be aware that much has to be done. Are there any kind of areas of advice that you would have for reaching people that aren't online enough to understand that they need to own their online? Does that make sense? So like other routes in kind of more physical media or other outreach methods?
Yes, and that is a challenge that we have. And you mentioned the younger segment. So I didn't put it in this presentation, but our market research also shows us these attitudes of the different segments. And what we find is that, as you say, younger people tend to be complacent. They think they know it all. And the older age groups, sort of generally speaking, are a little bit more wary, but also a bit nervous. But take the more open to taking the right measures. But what our approach has been is to try to find partners we can work with. SeniorNet, I think, is an international organization that trains older people on the internet in general. And so we have been working with them to do webinars that people can tune into. I know that older age groups often like to have that in-person contact, be able to ask someone questions. So if we're trying to find those organizations that already have some connection with groups, so that we can send out our materials through those groups and access them more directly.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, this is Christine, CERT PR. So it's kind of a question and also a comment for Vilio's comment about like training developing countries. And a lot of countries, I think, especially in Latin America and Africa, like having internet access means you have a cell phone. And usually you have like a free WhatsApp or something. So that's your internet. So you do everything through a messaging app. And another challenge is that most of that people don't have digital literacy. So the real challenge is not to explain what's authentication. It's explain what's in URL. So what's a website? For them is everything is fuzzy. Some of them have problems reading. Like in Brazil, really 65% of the internet users only have a cell phone. So they don't have access to computers at all. So that is an additional challenge because it's really hard to get the message because they are not like in 11. And we are talking especially more in Latin America with countries. And I think that is really a little bit of very different from a point. And this point about like the young knowing the technology, at least in Brazil now, kind of the media is kind of shocked that the younger generation that grew up with internet arrives at work and they don't know how to use computers. And like they use computers for gaming, they are very good at Facebook, but they don't know, they don't have a clue at anything. So like, and then the companies, well, we thought that this would be the generation we don't have to teach anything. And now they are kind of shocked that, oh my God, we really thought that because they are not afraid of breaking the technology, they understand. So it is more like if you have any studies, because I know that you did a lot of research, we have another area of organization that do a lot of surveys for ICT kids. Like in Brazil now, the generation from 21 and under, they say, oh no, I only believe things in TikTok because it's real people. So yeah, having real people, it's important. But then you need to have kind of the right real people giving right advice or something, because it's kind of confusing. So I would like to know if you have like more research, if you have talked to some people in developing countries and felt like this difference on how to reach people that have a different background, let's say, like of education and understanding of technology. So it's like some brainstorm. So if you have any hints for us that are dealing with that, we have a lot of material and campaigns, but like these are the next that we are finding. So different, not only different publics, but different levels of expertise on how to put the message.
There's a lot in there. I think, I accept what you're saying completely. And I think there are certain areas of society where, everyone's living on their phone, basically. We haven't got to that granular level of segmenting those people as an audience that we want to reach. But I think, it's probably something we would look into in the future, potentially. Thanks. Happy to talk to you more about that one.
All right, looks like there's no more. Oh, there's one more question. Excellent.
Just one more. It's not a question, but I fully support what you're doing in New Zealand.
Thank you.
But just the context behind my background, I work at the police station back in Palau, and we don't have a lot of resources. So what we do, and from the trainings we have from other nations, we kind of we go out into schools, because I'm at the Division of Juvenile Justice. So I talk to high school students going down to elementary school. And what we found out is that when we talk to a group of 100 students, we don't get that much feedback because we're on a small island. But when we changed our approach back in 2022 to where we split the groups into 30 students, we found out that the next year, I'm not very good with faces, but kids approached me saying that we really love your presentation because we spent about 5 minutes on the rights and the laws of our country, but maybe about 30 minutes to our experience, to our backgrounds and what we talk about and the victims that we've helped. And that hits them more harder than spending 15 minutes in a group of 100 students. So it's more on the experience and just talking on the level of a kid. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I think personal experiences really do affect people and ring true. Yes, thank you for that comment.